Hello there and welcome back to the Scott Reed Project, and today I am going to show you how to butcher a deer. Now, I've done a few videos already on butchering deer. They have been muntjac, but today I have got this fantastic roe and it really is a stunning specimen. If you just have a look at that, I mean, it's a super clean carcass. Just before I start butchering this deer, I just want to show you guys what I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using a Victorinox 5-inch semi-flex boning knife. This beast of a butcher's knife, 10-inch, and a 17-inch saw. Now, me being a butcher of 26 years, to me this is just a fantastic thing to butcher, and there are many variations of cuts I can do with this. And some of you guys might have seen my How to Butcher a Deer, my original video, very popular on YouTube. If you look down there, you'll see the link in the comments. And I'm going to cut this up a little bit different. It's a little bit bigger, which allows us to play with it a little bit more. You know, and I've thought long and hard, but the guy who shot this, who I'm cutting it up for, said he wants as many small cuts from this as possible. So not really big on the joint side of it, the roasting joints, so we can break some of these legs down. I'll show you how to seam out the muscles. But if I just show you that carcass then, if I can get it all on camera, perfect. So how we're going to start this is by taking off the legs. We'll just break it down into the primals of legs, loin and shoulders, and we will go from there. So, and where it comes out of the arse end, I know it's not a very good term, the bone comes up in an angle. The first joint you see, just feel with your knife. The second one starting into the loin, just put your knife in like that. We'll get our steak knife, and I'm just going to cut into that, and with the saw, gently letting the saw do the work, cut off those legs, and there are our legs, the shoulders and the loin. Several ways we can do this. Take off the breast, cut it as we would a lamb, but there is not a lot on the front really shoulder wise, so what I was thinking, maybe get as much out of the loin, the back strap where it would normally be cut about here. I'm thinking taking it a little bit higher so we can have a bit of a play. So what I'm going to do, just seam these shoulders straight off. If you can see, just pulling it up. It's only connected by muscle, and we can do something with those. Bone them out, dice, mince, burgers, sausage, and that's what it looks like. So, same with this side. You can see the natural seam in there. Just gently take those shoulders off. So we're left with what we call in the meat trade a trunk, and I'm just going to take off these breasts, which will be for mince or hamburger, my American friends. So I'm just going to, with the saw, this will be a little bit noisy. Take the wool off. And you can see where you need to cut, where that muscle is. Just go straight across, and that allows us to work with everything else. And it's always difficult, venison, sawing, because there is not a lot of meat on these or fat to give it a bit of firmness. But there you are, we'll bone that out later and get it in the mince. So we're left with our trunk and our neck. So we've got a good shot there, all down the ribs. Normally I would count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 if it was a lamb. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, make a mark, 1, 2, 3, 4, make a mark, and I'm just going to get my saw, just gently saw through the bone, and there's our neck. Just have a look at that. Now, two things we can do with that. We can cut it into neck chops for stewing, or we can skim the actual whole neck fillet out so it's a nice boneless piece. But there we have our loin, our neck, our shoulders, our breasts, and those lovely haunches. Right, now the butchery starts. So, if you look there, I've already gone through the pelvic bone, which is simple. I did that to allow the ease of cooling. All I did basically was just cut the meat there and sawed through with my saw. Now all we're going to do is go straight through and cut these in half, so we're left with our two haunches. Next, what I like to do, because it's a great steak, is I turn the leg round, and where the H bone is, the hip bone, just cut and saw through. It obviously starts to square up that lovely leg, and we're left, when we bone those out, with what is the equivalent of a rump steak. So same with the other. There's our hip bone, as you can see. So just a finger, 2 fingers on a slight angle pointing where the tail was, cut through, saw. As soon as you hear it gone through the bone, don't go any further, keep the cuts nice and clean, and there you have your haunch and your rump steak, or what we call a chump. So what we're going to do first thing is, as we go through this, we're going to build up 2 piles. Basically a pile of all the trim that is big, which we will dice, and then obviously a pile of trim that will go for grinding or mincing for sausages, burgers, whatever. But what we do is we put them into preliminary piles and we'll sort them all at the end. So with our chump then, as you can see, I'm just trimming that fat and the bone. Just the tip of your knife, just go in and just follow the bone. That's all you've got to do. I'll try and get this on camera as much as I can for you guys. You can see that knife flexing lovely around that bone, and we're just following the bone. Take the bone off, and we're left with that lovely boneless chump. Onto the haunches then. Fantastic cut. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having them on the bone like that. But what I'm going to do, as you can see here, there's a natural fatty deposit. Get your knife in, and then we have our shank of venison. So if you have a look on that leg, you You can see where the bone ends. 9 times out of 10 you get it first time, as you can see there, straight down and then across. He says. And there we have shank number 2. Next then, so this guy, he wanted as many small cuts, so he's not going to go big on the roasting. But what I am going to do, I'm going to show you how to take the H bone out of this, and then talk a little bit about breaking it down into its muscle groups. So, a lovely pair of haunches, like I said, still with the bone in. So what we're going to do, we're going to bone out these. So I'm just going to take off what we call the H bone. It's an odd shaped bone. There's a little ball joint there. So once you get your knife in, to start it, it's so hard doing it reverse for you guys. Just gently follow this bone, just take your time, you know, don't rush, there's no rush. Just gently follow it. And there you have your H bone taken out. So there is your bone in haunch, which is the joint a lot of people like, but I'm going to show you how to break this down into its muscles so you can get mini roasting joints or steaks, whatever you fancy. So again, with this side, which is better for the camera, just get it through that ball joint. Set absolutely perfect, this is for butchery, absolutely perfect. Just take that out. We can trim any meat off we want, and there we're left with our haunch. I'm just going to tidy up where they joined. We're going to break these down. Now, to get the maximum amount of cuts out of this haunch, because the guy said he wanted more steaks and roasting, we are going to break it down into its muscle groups of what we call in England a top side, silver side and a top rump, which my American and Canadian friends would call a top round, a bottom round and a knuckle. And the way we're going to do this is by seaming. There's natural seams, you can see if you look in there as well, and that's how we're going to get this off the bone. So what you need to see is this white line here, but if you look there, if you can get your hand in, that will be your silver side, and we're basically going to go down that seam there. I mean, there's a good way is you can get your finger in that seam and just start to loosen it. I'm just going to, as you can see, naturally, you know, you really don't have to do anything to it. It starts to open out into our top round till we hit the femur, which is there. So to release that across that seam there, it is tricky, I know, to show on the camera. I've tried as best as I can, but there we have our top round. Time to take off this knuckle, so across the top of the bone, we'll take the bone out in one piece. And we can see the seam we need to find to remove that top rump. And basically just get your hands in, you can prise them apart pretty much. You can see that silver skin. I'm going to go straight across, and that gives us our knuckle or top rump. Just going to take that knuckle bone out, and then we're left with our silver side, our eye of round, which I am going to take out by just going down that seam, because that is a lovely piece of meat in its own right. Just have a look at that. In the pan, perfect. I'm going to trim that fat off, and where the remainder of the knuckle is, I should take that off and just skim that. We're left with that beautiful silver side or bottom round flat, which you could tie up, would make a lovely little joint. That gives us our two bottom rounds or silver side flats, our two eye of the rounds, our two top rumps or knuckles, and obviously our two top rounds, top sides. Now these again could be tied up, little joints. Like I said, when we started this, the haunch could be kept whole, but you know, you guys in America especially, you take your deers to be processed, you know, and the guys I speak to a lot and over here, you seem to be just getting a haunch back and back strap and a load of ground venison, minced venison. But doing it this way, separating it into its muscle groups, you get more usable cuts. I mean, if there's only two of you and you have one of those big haunches, really it's a lot of meat for two people. But like this, tied up, beautiful little mini roasts, solid meat. So with these breasts, if it's been shot right, look at that, there's hardly any damage. All we need to do is bone these out and trim the shot damage off. Bit tricky, but you know, you're going to get a good amount of meat. So just with your knife right up close to the bone, just gently start skimming over the top. Like I said, this is one of the cleanest carcasses I've seen, apart from a headshot deer. You aren't going to get cleaner than this. And all we're going to do, take your time. And I know I say that a lot, but that's all you've got to do. Take your time and it's doable. And there we have our one breast. So what I would do, obviously clean up any dirty bloody meat. So as you can see, I would go straight across there and I would go across there, but when you turn it over, you know, there's shot damage in there, so I would just salvage what I can off this. Just going to trim some of the fat out. Don't want too much fat in our mince, but you know, not a lot of wastage in the scheme of things. This will all go through the mincer. Next we are going to tackle that neck. Like I said, left on the bone, cut into rounds. By that I mean about that thick, an inch thick in the stew pot, brilliant. But we're going to go for the neck fillet. So if you see that bone there, just get your knife right up against it and you can virtually see where you've got to go. If you follow that line, let me show you that way. What we're doing, we're going to go all the way down there, either side. and you're left with a seriously good piece of meat. A bit tricky when it gets to the neck end. But that's why I cut these a little bit longer, because I wanted to have decent sized neck fillet. That's the one which we will trim up in a moment. So this side, when you get to that neck end, knife will naturally want to come out. I'm just going to go over those ribs. If you can see, you have to excuse some of these angles. It really is hard to capture on camera. Basically, all the way down, so we release that neck fillet. Just going to take out that gristle. And obviously we want to strip what was part of the shoulder away, square it off. That we can sort in our trim pile and just give this a little tidy up. You're left fantastic neck fillet, which if it was a cut of lamb would be very, very expensive. So again, just find the seam, take that yellow strap off again, and there we have neck fillet number 2. So our lovely neck fillets, fantastic. Just put those to one side. Next we are going to tackle the loin. Several things we can do with this. Split it down the middle, so we got our racks of venison or some chops, or we could bone it either side. You know, I'm tempted to do either. I just wish I had a few more of these so I could show you all the variations. But what we're going to do, I want to get some chops out of this. So first of all, with my knife, I'm just going to clean up the inside so we can get the line I want. So any of the fat, any of the bloody bits. Now, as you can see that, you can see the ribs, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, where that end rib is, I just want to go down one side and down the other side. So, when we get to our last rib then, we've cut through both sides. What we need to do, just get our saw in, saw through. We have our loin end, which we're going to do into chops, and our best end. So with our loin end then, we are going to do some Barnsley chops. So I'm just going to cut either side. Get 5 out of this one. You can go through the joint if you want to, and then I'm just going to get my saw in. Excuse the noise. Just gently saw through, and that gives you a lovely double loin chop. As soon as you hear it go through the bone, you're done. Stop. Fantastic. So I shall cut through the rest of those. So when you've done that, obviously that's your back strap, and you end up with some lovely thick venison Barnsley chops. Cooks better on the bone all the time, obviously because of the lack of fat, but that in its own right is a great thing to have on your plate. So what I want to do with this, like I've said, we could get chops out of it, but we got some chops. So what I'm going to do is bone it out, but I want to keep some of that meat on it, because we will roll these up and make some little noisettes. I know, stick with it guys. I bet you're thinking, my God, what is this man doing with this deer? But I'm just showing you a different way, different cuts from the norm. Couldn't be easier. Just follow the rib down, as you can see. How nice that's boning out. A little bit of shot damage straight across. You could put some stuffing in there, roll that up, knife in. Gently start over those ribs. Once you get it going, comes off sweet as a nut. Just pushing with that one hand, peeling it away, as you can see. I mean, if I was just doing this on my own, normally you're talking 10 minutes, but obviously filming it, trying to get the angles, it's a lot longer. There we have. Get that bone dust off. Number 2. Let's deal with these shoulders. As you can see, now there's not a lot on these guys, in all fairness. There's a few muscles you might find of interest. But first of all, we need to take off those little shanks or hocks. It's a case of getting your knife in, just breaking that joint. I mean, this is set so well. So again, you can see you have to watch out for that bone that sticks up there. So, hocks off. Just quickly bone these out. Down the one side. Down the other. That gives us a decent piece of meat to add to our pile. First thing I ever learned to bone was the equivalent to this cut on a cow, which would be a shin. Great way to learn to bone. Nice and clean. Should end up looking like that. Right, trim pile. So our shoulder then, it's obviously got the blade bone in, the shoulder blade bone. This is a triangular shaped bone. You can hear, if you can see, it goes to a point to this board joint. So it's that board joint. If you just get your knife in and go, aim for the middle, and then just gently peel away over the top. This is when a flexi blade comes in handy. But obviously, you know, you're not going to get it completely clean, the bone. Don't worry, you can trim your bones up. This is not a butchering contest. And once you've exposed both sides, there's a ball joint there. As you can see, just gently get your knife either side. Now you can do that. You can do it the old school butcher's way by getting your finger underneath it and pulling. And that pretty much a bit of off there is your blade bone out. Next, this bone, as you can see, it's like someone's drawn a diagram. Just get the tip of your knife in. It will expose the bone. Now I know you guys out there thinking, my God, what is he doing? All these cuts, it just looks like one massive mess. Well, you should start putting it together, start trimming it out, start staking it, and it will all make sense to you. There's the other shoulder I've done. Right, now I know to you guys sitting at home, you're all thinking, what the hell is this dude doing? Well, these are our basic cuts we're going to work with now. This is where the alchemy really begins. So we're going to start staking, dicing, tying a few little joints and getting our prime cuts. And I know it just seemed, you know, a bit overwhelming to get to this stage, but this is where the butchering really begins. So let's start working on some of these cuts one at a time. Right, our top sides, top rounds, square it off. The man wanted steaks, we're going to give him steaks. Same with this one. You know, there's no use having a big old haunch if there's just a couple of you, or not everybody eats venison. Steaks, especially these, in the pan, fantastic. That goes to trim. So there's steaks. If you remember our chumps, I said equivalent to the rumps. Again, into steaks. 2 decent sized ones out of each one. Trim pile. Then our neck fillets. Just tidy them up. They can stay whole. Our loins, like I said, you leave that flap on. You can roll them, but we just peel it off. Automatically becomes the favourite venison cut of choice to my American friends, the back strap. So I'm going to get 2 portions out of that. You've got the silver skin, go down the middle, tilt your knife as if you were filleting, skinning a fish, sorry, and there you have 1, 2 perfect portions of backstrap. Same with this other one. 1, 2. Just get your knife in there. Trim that one. There we have our back strap. Next, these lovely top rumps would be fantastic rolled. But what we're going to do, stake it, have nice little scallops. Take a bit of fat off. And that's just the steaks. Not forget our eye of rounds, which I'm just going to gently square off because they would go brilliant in the pan as they are. So all of a sudden those little muscles have turned into a load of steaks for the pan, for the grill, for the barbie. There's our fantastic venison shanks. But what I'm going to do, bone them out. Quite simple. And these will go into dice for stews, casseroles. Same with this one. Down the one side, down the other side. As close to the bone as possible. And what we do, just cut that tendon off, that from there. Take that knuckle muscle, the seam. Same with this side. And they will be diced. So these little silver side flats or bottom round flats, just get your knife underneath that silver skin. I'm going to put a couple of strings around those. Okay then, now I imagine there's a lot of you sat there in front of your computer going, what did I just watch? And I know it looked like a lot of cuts and it looked very complicated, and you're thinking to yourself, really, what did that achieve? Well, here it is. Out of that little roe deer, with that little bit of time, that little bit of knowledge and that little bit of skill, we got all this. So starting up here, we got a lovely big bowl of diced venison for stews and casseroles. Those fantastic double venison chops, Barnsley chops. Moving over, a couple of fantastic little mini roasting joints. Our neck fillets are for backstrap or loin fillets. Moving to the right, like I said, we broke down that top rump and the top side, or the top round and the knuckle, and we got an array of steaks. Remember, the guy wanted as many cuts out of this. He wasn't interested in joints. We got our chumps, or the equivalent rump steak, and those two little fillets from the eye of the round, from the silver side. And this bowl here is for trim for making venison and red wine sausage. So there you go, that is how to butcher a deer. And yes, it's a little bit different, and especially to you guys in America and Canada, you know, you send it to the processors, it comes back haunch, backstrap and ground meat, minced meat. But you've got to admit we got quite a lot out of what really was a small deer. So really, all in all, not a bad job done. Thank you very much. You're welcome. So if you've liked what you've seen here today on the Scott Reed Project, and I know that was cut up a little different, and I wish I had 4 more, because there's 4 more ways I could do it. There's so much scope with something like this, but this is just the way I chose to do it to show you today. So next time I get another one, we're going to do it a little different. So it just remains for me to say then, thanks for watching this. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also like it and share it. You can follow me on Facebook at Scott Reed Project. Also on Twitter at Scott Reed Project. Right, I suppose I better get packing all this up. And I'll see you again sometime. Someone pass me the bags.